Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to round 2 of the 2021 Halfords International Formula Alpha Championship. We're here in Britain this time round. It's going to be a good one. We're enjoying the British sunshine, just as we have been in real life as well. And not only am I looking forward to seeing some cars out on track, but I'm also looking forward to introducing our new co-commentator, Lewis Bowers. Say hello, Lewis.
Hello everyone. Nice. Thank you for having me. It's looking like going to be a good day this evening, and really looking forward to being part of the team.
Good stuff, good stuff. Yeah, we've got a lot of cars out on track at the moment. We're just going to run through the order very quickly. It's currently Colin Knief, as ever, out in front with a 201.3, followed closely behind by George Brook Battersby. He's a rookie this year, but he's been running very nicely indeed. He showed some pretty good pace in Austria last time round, and he's looking to be on good form this time round again. So we've got just under 15 minutes of qualifying remaining. Let's see what the drivers who are out on track at the moment can do. Don't have too close of a field for the moment. See Colin Knief in a league of his own really at the moment. He's waiting for, I imagine, Matt Daly to try and challenge him, but as we know, Matt Daly won't really turn up until the very end of qualifying usually, just because he's that good, obviously, our previous championship winner. We will try and get an on-board view of Colin. He is out on track at the moment. Annoyingly, I don't believe I have any sector times at the moment. Oh no, he is out on track. Very good. Okay, thought we had a timing glitch there, as we usually do seem to have at some point during the weekend. Yes, Lewis was able to experience some of the many timing issues that I've been having on his very first evening. So, you know, business as usual.
Nice to see that nothing ever changes, eh?
You see Guy Swarbrick improving there with, I don't know what he's improved with, unfortunately, because yes, the time screen has in fact decided to not give me the lap summaries along the bottom, which is not very helpful. What I'll probably do is I'll probably revert to the good old built-in Assetto one. That should do the trick. But that's going to be about a 207 there, so it's put in P9 at the moment. He's got a good bit of competition there, actually. Adam Baker, another rookie, is just a couple of tenths down, and he is also on the heels of Paul Millman. So obviously not everyone on the same pace, but we've seen throughout multiple points in the first half of the year's running as well, actually, that people do enjoy kind of their own little races, their own little battles out on track. So it should be good to see, actually, on a very technical circuit, which is Silverstone.
Midfield battle looks quite tight, to be fair, from sort of 7th down to maybe 10th or 11th. It looks like a really interesting battle could be forming up. Obviously, Barry Clayton there is currently running on the medium tyres by the looks of it, so could hide a bit of pace for him.
Is he now? Interesting. Yeah, it's something I hadn't considered, actually. Yeah, tyre strategy could end up playing a huge, it could be a huge factor in this race weekend. It looks like everyone else is on the hards, I believe. Barry Clayton will probably have some fairly good one-lap pace, but he may have to watch out on that front left, especially around Silverstone here. Of course, these cars not input quite as much energy as we see in the higher formulas through, but nonetheless, it's still a long lap and some very high speeds carried through the corners.
Especially with the low downforce setups they will be running for this long, fast lap. Could be putting a lot of strain through the mechanical grip of the tyres.
Yes, indeed. This is an open setup championship, of course, and we have Colin, as ever, is very helpful and has given kind of everyone a base setup to run with, and that is pretty much 3 clicks of rear aero and nothing on the front, if I recall correctly. So everyone trying to eke out as much as they can down the straights, of course, though some people will be going for an alternate strategy, so it'll be interesting to see how that goes throughout the lap. Have reverted to the regular Assetto sector timings now, so we'll be able to see where people's strengths are, really. And annoyingly, I've been asked to do a Windows update, which is not ideal timing.
The cars on track are seeming to sort of form up by the looks of our track map. They're sort of forming up in pairs, hopefully giving each other a bit of a tow. Of course, on a track as quick as Silverstone, it's important to maximise that straight line speed.
Yeah, especially in these cars, which straight line speed is not their strength. we do find the drivers will try and rev them out in every gear as much as possible to try and eke out as much performance, because you really do have a lot of time to kind of sit and have a think, really, demonstrating these cars. Of course, powered by the 1.4 multi-air Alfa engine. It looks like Will Harper is actually on for a decent lap here as he heads through Maggott and Beckett. See him, he's currently sector 2 at the moment. He's found a nice bit of time, actually, and he's going to head onto the straight now, and let's see how much extra speed he's carried through. Let's see how much advantage that has given him there. It looks like someone else will be enjoying the tow as well.
I believe that's Anthony Gray in the tow behind him, currently sat in P13. So hopefully that will give him a bit of an advantage. See if he can challenge a few places up higher up the order. He seems to have set 2 personal best sectors. So.
Good stuff, good stuff. Yeah, it'd be nice to see Gray putting in a decent time now as we head into the final 10 minutes of this session, as Will Harper comes around the final corner. He's found a little bit of time towards the end there, but not quite as much as I was thinking he would. He should still have a nice improvement. Will he challenge Will Inglis for 5th position? It doesn't look like he does. In fact, Anthony Gray has just put in a very nice lap indeed there. You were right, Lewis. He has found a nice bit of time there. That puts him in 6th position. It pushes Will down to 7th. Very, very similar times, though.
Indeed. It looks as though there's only a 10th or so between them, less than a 10th between them. So that could be a very, very interesting battle in the race.
Indeed, yeah. It's currently saying on my screen 300, but I totally wouldn't trust this timing system. I'd choose what you're looking at over the timing system, to be honest.
Just shows the power of the tow, even from what seems to be a couple of a second or so back on track. You can still find that nice pocket of low drag.
Definitely.
We've got a couple more cars coming round onto the. Don't know if they're setting laps or if they're just starting laps, but looks as though Andrew Whitehead.
Yes, he's on for a very nice lap at the moment. Currently in 4th. He's got about 400 tenths separating him. I think he's just finished the lap, actually, because he's just cooked the rear tyres. Yeah, he's found a nice bit of time there. There's now a very close fight going on for 2nd as Colin Knief sets a new fastest lap of 2:01.1. He is really showing his strength, trying to secure pole position there with a very quick lap indeed. So yeah, the fight really is for 2nd at the moment.
Yeah, it does look like a very interesting fight. It looks as though we've got 2 really distinct fights kind of forming up between the fight for 2nd and the fight for 6th. It looks as though it's very interesting. We've got about 5 or 6 cars within a second of each other in the mid-pack.
Yes, and I have important news for this qualifying session. Matt Daly has now joined the session, so it looks like there's going to be a 3rd battle going on in this session, and it will be the one for pole.
Now, will Matt Daly's infamous 1-lap pace be able to manage? Colin's had a few laps now. He's been in practice for a while and been running quite well in the first half of this qualifying session. So what will Matt Daly be able to produce?
Indeed, yeah. And what I find infamous about Matt Daly's 1-lap pace as well is he seems to be able to do his 1-lap pace for about 50 laps as well, usually. He's a very good driver indeed. He's both him and Colin, I believe, have just enjoyed some successes in the real world at Snetterton, which was nice to see. But still, at the moment then, let's see who is pushing. It's Guy Swarbrick is on for a decent lap at the moment. Should find a nice bit of time. He comes to the end of that lap now. And there's a little bit of delay while the time system decides whether or not he has improved. It doesn't look like he has, unfortunately. But Will Harper was also looking like he could have improved there, but that is not the case, unfortunately. In fact, him and Anthony Gray, I think he has improved. They're now about 100th of a second apart.
So that's an incredibly close lap. That could be very, very interesting indeed.
Yeah, if they can keep their pace this close together, we'll be on for a very good couple of races indeed. We are going to join Matt Daly's outlap. Actually, we'll join that in just a minute because he's a bit further behind on the lap than I thought he was. But yeah, this battle for 2nd. Alex Smith, a very quick driver. Rob Whitney, also a quick driver. Rob Whitney is actually currently in the grass at the moment, but Alex Smith is currently out on track. on an outlap by the looks of things. Oh no, this is the start of his quick lap, so we'll stay with this while he tries to snatch second position off George Brook Battersby, running very well indeed, the rookie this year. Heading into Brooklands then. This is one bit of this track that I can never get right. I don't know about yourself, Lewis, but I'm always losing about 4 hours worth of time.
Yes, it seems to be a corner that is a make or break for your lap. That Brooklands there is definitely one that you have to perfect in practice, and I, like you, haven't managed to find a line yet. So these guys can.
It's an interesting one because, especially in these 170 horsepower cars, you're going to be pretty much flat out until pretty much Vale really. So if you don't have a good exit out of Brooklands, you've really knackered your lap. As Matt Daly is now coming to the end of his outlap. Right then, on board with Matt Daly heading into turn 1. I'm looking for any purple sectors because I have a feeling we might see a couple.
Can he be on the brakes into that first big heavy braking zone there and hold as much speed as possible? He comes out onto the
a little bit of twitch there on exit. I'm not sure if that was oversteer kicking in or it was just a bit of a weirdness with force feedback, but nevertheless he is now on to the is it Wellington Straight? Oh, I've forgotten all the straight names.
Wellington Straight, yes.
Yes.
Down into Brooklands. Can he hook up Brooklands using all the curve there?
Yeah, a lot of curve actually. No idea what he's running in terms of setup for the moment. Alex Smith unable to improve his time to snatch second position for the moment, now into the final few minutes of qualifying. In fact, Will Inglis has improved his lap. He is now 3.3 seconds off the lead. He's built himself a nice... pardon me, no, it's Will Harper who's improved. He's now running in 5th. As we see, Will Harper has actually set a purple mini sector at some point. Matt Daly not gone purple yet, but it is only his first lap, and he's got a decent lap hooked together for the moment, it must be said, as we watch him head through Maggott and Beckett. Looks like the car became a little bit unsettled there, just over the curb ever so slightly. Very short wheelbase on these cars, it's very easy to upset them and ruin a lap.
Yeah, I think that's the reason that you've got to be careful coming into the session so late as he does. You've got to be aware of the fact that a small mistake like that can certainly ruin a qualifying performance.
Yeah, because realistically, he has to go out again. Actually, thinking about it, he won't make it round. So unless he has an absolute flyer of an outlap and basically stops this lap now, he won't be able to make it round again. So he has one more chance after this. The tyres will be able to do another one. It will put them under a lot of stress. But he goes 5th fastest there on his first time round with a 2:04.3 as Barry Clayton improves to 10th position.
Yeah, that midfield battle still looking really, really good now with the session coming towards its crescendo. As everyone short of 5th place, Matt Daly is within tenths of the guy in front of them, so it could be a very, very interesting race.
Yes, indeed, and I look forward to seeing drivers with this pace doing a reverse grid race as well, because that's always carnage, and that's always what we like to see in virtual racing. See Alex Smith actually setting a purple mini sector there. It looked like Matt Daly just got a little bit too greedy with the speed there heading into Brooklands. It looks like he scrubbed off quite a bit of pace. He is still... Where is he at the moment? He is, as we have people leaving the session, unfortunately. I forgot to note down the order, so I might not be able to give a perfect running order, but we will have a few minutes before the race. Colin Kenny still on pole for the moment, and he's been pretty much unchallenged so far, and it's looking like he will carry on unchallenged as Matt Daly concedes, and he's unable to put in a lap for pole. So Colin Knief takes away pole position for the moment. Very good job for Colin there. I believe we have pretty much everyone in the pit now. Will Inglis still out, but it's not looking to be a good lap at all. Same for Paul Milne, and we pretty much are coming to the end of the running for qualifying now.
Yeah, it's a shame there we didn't see much of a lap from Matt. It was a bit of a flyer in the first sector, but as you said, he got a bit too bit too keen on the way into Brooklands and just ran deep as it is so easy to do. It's so easy to just overcook it slightly and get a little bit too excited and end up ruining an entire lap.
Indeed, and this has played into Conkeneef's hand very nicely indeed. Matt Daly was unable to, or was he watching? I can't remember if he was unable to or he was watching the football. Was unable to attend round 1, so Conkeneef is our current championship leader, and so far he's setting himself up very nicely indeed. In fact, is he on? Yeah, he's still on a quick lap at the moment. So he's just rubbing it in at this point. He set a couple of purple mini sectors.
Second sector as well. He is on an absolute flyer. He's got a nice toe.
He does, yeah. Just watching him towards the end of the hanger straight there, he's got another couple of purple mini sectors. We have Will Harper also out on track. No, we don't actually. That's just Seto being a little bit weird and telling me he's out on track. Yeah, let's see what Colin Keneef can. We know he's got pole, but it'll just be interesting to find out.
The final corner. Let's see what lap he's done.
2 minutes 7. What an amazing lap from Colin there. That is something really spectacular. Very good job to him indeed. 2 minutes flat, pretty much.
Yeah, well, he pulled that one out of the bag, didn't he?
Yeah,
very much a victory lap, kind of a lap of honour. But
I was going to say, I think that was a show of force. That was a show of force to Alex Smith and George Brook Battersby behind. That they might as well not bother. I don't know. Say you wanted to try and make a move into cops somewhere. You know, I'm not sure everyone would want to do that, but you never know. So that concludes the action for qualifying, but we'll be with you in just a moment as we head into the first race of this weekend. We will join you in just a moment. What we've done there is we've literally just missed the start of the race by about a second, but welcome back to the action, ladies and gentlemen. Andrew White getting a very good launch there. He is fighting George Brook and Alex Smith for second position at the moment. It looks like he's been boxed off just a little bit as Colin Knief extends his gap to about half a second now, as there's a lot of commotion here. Oh god, lots of things are happening on screen right now. The timing system has once again broken. Surprise, surprise, as we head through the loop. It is Andrew Whitehead in fourth at the moment, trying to keep George Brook Battersby behind. Well, that was quite the start to the race, Jesus Christ. As we have a fairly big train heading down towards Brooklands now, everyone trying to find as much time as they can in the straight with the slipstream, as Andrew Whitehead looks to explore the inside line just a little bit there. He's not going to quite make it work from there. He's under pressure from George Brook heading through Brooklands now. There's still only about a second separating third position and third down to seventh, pretty much, as George Brook is right on the gearbox of Andrew Whitehead heading towards Copse. Now, we've seen how wrong heroics into Copse can go. Let's see what will happen with pretty much 4 wide now, as we see George Brook Battersby, an impressive move through Copse, just about gets the measure of Andrew Whitehead. Andrew Whitehead, lots of oversteer on exit and puts it in a wall. What a shame for Andrew Whitehead. He battled very hard at the first part of the race, and unfortunately for him, he is relegated down to pretty much the bottom of the grid with a quite substantial amount of damage on his car. Well, what do you make of that, Lewis? That was quite the action-packed start.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always good to see a good first lap. Unfortunately for Andrew Whitehead there, it was not to be that his race had to stop short, or at least was significantly short. His prospects significantly worsened by the accident there. Looks like everyone else was keeping it fairly clean after the little bit of arguments at Village for the first time, but we should see how it's going. I think Colin's built a nice little gap, and we'll see if he can maintain that. I think Matt Daly's chasing him down at a rate of knots, so that could be quite good to see how that unfolds over the course of the next 20 minutes or so.
Yes, Matt Daly having a very good start to the race. He's capitalised on a lot of people's errors and has made quite a few positions up the grid, as we see Alex Smith exploring the outside there of Matt Daly. He has had a fairly good start to the race as well. Just seeing before, at the very end of that lap, Guy Strawbrook unfortunately getting it wrong there and relegating himself down to last position on track. We have, where is Andrew Whitehead? He is still in the pit at the moment. Unfortunately, it must be some fairly big damage, but it looks like the battle for second position is going to carry on for quite a while. These are very pacey drivers indeed.
Yeah, absolutely. It looks as though they're going to be slowing each other down, unfortunately, as you continue to battle. You slow yourselves down, allowing Colin to build a nice gap. Maybe they could work together to give each other the tow and try and chase him down, but we'll have to see how that goes.
Yes, as we head towards Copse again, George Brook opting for a much safer entry into the corner this time round. This train's going to carry on as we head towards Maggotts and Beckett's and the highly technical part of the circuit. I just want to go a bit further down the grid to catch up with the action there. Will Inglis and Andrew Whitehead are very close to, pardon me, that's Rob Whitney. I've just made the mistake that I knew I was going to make. We've seen in the previous championship runnings, Will Inglis and Andrew Whitehead certainly know how to race each other, and hopefully we'll see a bit more of that in this race now. Still only about 3/10 separating George and Alex as they head down the hanger straight now. We're going to head... Oh dear, it looks like there's been quite a bit of contact for George there. It looks like he's just misjudged the overtake ever so slightly and it's put him in a wall. Oh dear, that's not how he wanted his race to continue. He, looking at the front wing damage, oh dear, yeah, that's not really ideal. Maybe there's a bit more damage than I thought. I was about to say, judging by the amount of damage on his front wing, he should be able to carry on. He'll lose a bit of pace as Colin Knief sets the fastest lap of the race so far at 2:02.6. But unfortunately, it looks like he had a bit of a mess up heading into the corner there, and now he's had to wait for cars to pass, and it's pushed him down to the bottom of the grid.
It's a shame that is. He was looking really good. The rookie having a great start and a great quali, but yeah, that's how racing goes sometimes, unfortunately.
Indeed.
See if you can get the damage fixed and get back out and at least try and fight a way back into some good positions.
Yeah, he's got some pace, so we should see him fighting up the grid, which will be good to see heading into the final stage of the race as we watch Will Inglis hang it round the outside, down the Wellington straight. A really good move there on Alan Matthews. They're going to be pretty much side by side heading towards Brooklands. Alan Matthews getting a little bit of an advantage down the straight, perhaps, but Will Inglis was braver. Under braking, he's going to have to cut in behind there, and now, in fact, he's got pressure from Rob Whitney. So we're going to head through Brooklands and pretty much have a repeat of what we had on the previous lap, heading down towards Copse now. We see that
Paul Millman and Will Harper are closing in on that battle at a considerable rate. It looks like that could become a five-way battle.
Just what we want to see as they head down through Copse. Will Harper, a very quick driver indeed. He will be. He had a fairly good round one. Hopefully, he will continue that momentum and improve on that and have another good round here at Silverstone. He certainly knows how to go round Silverstone. I was about to say it's the final lap of the race then, because unfortunately the timing system has decided that it is. As we head down the hangar straight now with Will Inglis. We'll stay on board with him, as it looks like there has been a swap of position for Anthony Gray. Unfortunately, he's messed up on the track, so I can't see where that is. I believe that's heading into Wellington. I'm not entirely sure, but shame for him there.
Yeah, it looks like it was at Beckett's. I think he's come off by the looks of our timing screens.
Right. Okay. In fact, we've just seen. Yeah, Alan Matthews. Alan Matthews looks like he might have had to pit or something because they've just seen him drop down the grid. That might have been a timing glitch.
Oh, I believe Alan Matthews has had an accident on the way into the pits.
Ah, interesting. Okay, that's an odd one. He's on hard tyres as well. Yeah, we do, as you mentioned in qualifying, Lewis, we do have got a fairly good mix, actually, of medium and hard runners, so it'll be interesting to see how that develops heading further on into the race. See Will Harper at the back of this train fighting for 5th position then. And in fact, the battle for 2nd position has not let up for the entirety of this race so far. Alex Smith has been on Matt Daly for pretty much every single lap after lap 1, and it looks like he's going to be carrying on, putting pressure on him furthermore. And as you were saying, Lewis, Matt Daly's having to defend, and he's lost about 3 seconds in the past few minutes.
Absolutely, it just shows how crucial it is to almost try and behave yourselves when you're sat behind someone. If you're trying to both of you catch.
Oh dear, Will Harper's, pardon me, sorry for cutting in there. Will Harper's had an error. Again, I'm not sure where that is, but oh dear, that's pushed him down the grid quite substantially. He hasn't lost that many positions, but what he will have lost is quite a lot of time.
Yeah, lost a lot of time, and there's also lost a lot of momentum as well. Around a track like this, in cars like these, it is so important that you keep your momentum up.
That's a very good point.
He's going to have to struggle to fight that back. It might take him a couple of laps to rebuild that pace.
What a shame for Will there. We saw that kind of error at Austria, notably with drivers like Will and Alex. Drivers running very well indeed, but unfortunately, little errors, little tiny misjudgments can really mess up your race. But we're on board with Alex Smith now, actually, and he hasn't had any form of error so far. He's been putting pressure on Matt Daly nicely as we head towards the end of the lap now. Colin Knief setting another fastest lap of the race at 2:02.5. He's settling into this race quite nicely. He is on the hard tyres, so he should be able to go at a fairly decent rate until the end of the race. Obviously, the fuel load getting lighter. We've got about 30 litres on board at the start of the race, and that will make a fairly big difference towards the end. As long as he keeps it out of a wall, he should be on for a fairly good result here.
As you mentioned, the tyres, Matt Daly and Alex Smith in 2nd and 3rd place are both running the medium tyre. So it could be interesting to see how that impacts their fight and their gap to the cars around them, both in front and behind, as those medium tyres might start to wear off. Obviously, fighting, you're taking unusual and less efficient lines through corners, so you might start to see a little bit of wear coming through on those medium tyres. It could be very interesting to see how that develops.
Definitely, as you say, these drivers will be pushing these mediums fairly hard, and behind them they have Will Inglis, who certainly knows his way around the track, and he's on the hards as well, so we could be on for a fairly good battle for the podium towards the end of this race here. Rob Whitney is on the medium. We have Paul Millman on the mediums as well, and John Baker on the mediums. So it seems to be that the mediums are pretty much the tyre of choice, I imagine, owing to the one-lap strengths. But we definitely will start seeing a struggle because the track temperature is relatively high, and the front left especially is always pressured around Silverstone. as we see the gap between Matt and Colin now at about 8 seconds, but Matt is by no means leaving Alex behind. And there's now less than a second, also separating Will Inglis and Rob Whitney. We've seen these two can battle as well, so we should be on for a good little bit of racing here.
Rob Whitney showing some real pace, especially as I believe he's in the AM class, so showing some real pace with the ability to keep up with the pro guys around him.
Good stuff. He's had a very good start to the race so far. We're just not quite at the halfway mark yet, but he's made up 6 positions. Just goes to show if you keep the nose clean the first couple of laps, you can really reward yourself. Seen drivers like George Brook, Battersby, Will Harper, Rob Whitney, Anthony Gray. Unfortunately, is that Rob Whitney? Oh, I'm not quite sure who that is, unfortunately. Someone's gone off. I just can't quite make out who. I believe it was Rob Whitney who had an off. Yes, it was. That's now, yeah, Rob Whitney having an off there. He's now about a second and a half behind Will Inglis. So I was just saying, if you keep the nose clean, it's commentator's curse that, unfortunately. I was saying he had a very good start to the race, and unfortunately he's made a little bit of an error that sees him build that delta between him and Will just that little bit more.
Will that allow Will now to get in the hunt for Alex Smith and Matt Daly in that fight for second place? And will Paul Millman in P6 at the moment, will he be able to catch up to the back of Rob Whitney and potentially put a little bit of pressure on him? Very expensive mistake there.
Yes, indeed. Paul Millman, again, another driver who started off well, 6 positions up at the moment. But yeah, as you say, Will Inglis is finding himself in a fairly good position here because he's on the hards. He's made up 4 positions so far, and he now has the option of kind of trying to preserve the tyres to enjoy a bit of grip towards the end, or to try and push now towards Matt and Alex. If I was him personally, I would see how the next kind of 5 to 10 minutes of the race goes, and then try and push towards the medium runners of Alex and Matt, because these two are battling and no doubt will battle towards the end of the race. We see Matt Daly carrying a lot of speed through the corner there, and oh dear, he's got very twitchy over the curb there. I was about to say Alex has lost a bit of time to him, but he will have gained that right back now, heading down the hanger straight, and you can just see the difference in momentum there. There's now only half a second separating them. So as you were saying before, Lewis, it's really important that you keep your momentum up with these cars around this circuit.
Absolutely, and that might come into play as Alex potentially looks at making a move. You know, do you sacrifice the momentum that you've built up to stick a nose down the inside into a braking zone, or do you think, actually, I'll sit and wait a little bit longer? You know, as we approach the halfway mark in this 25-minute race, there's still a long way to go. So any moves you make could destroy your race in the latter stages if you again lose that momentum that we've been talking about.
Yes, and speaking of someone who has momentum, he hasn't had much screen time at all. Colin Knief has been unchallenged for the entire race. Now about 12 seconds between him and the very quick Matt Daly. He's just set another fastest lap, but it was pretty much equal to his previous fastest lap, so he's found a really good rhythm on the hard tyres there. They look like mediums on the car, but we'll go with what the timing system says and say he's on the hards. Will Harper had actually, unfortunately, it looks like we missed an error from Will Harper. I was about to say, I was looking at the timing screen, it looked like he was closing in on Adam Baker out in front, but unfortunately for him, he's now about 12 seconds down, and now has Barry Clayton for relative company, about 5 seconds behind. So what a shame for Will Harper there. That charge through the fields not really going his way. He's only got about so probably about 12 or 30 minutes worth of running left now to try and salvage some points. So not gone the way that Will would have wanted, unfortunately, as we see Alex Smith now building up that delta between him and Matt just a little bit once again.
Barry Clayton behind Will in P9 on the medium tyres. You know, again, it comes down to...
Oh dear! Oh, what a shame for Barry there. Sorry to cut in there, but it was on topic. Unfortunately for Barry, he's made an error. I'm not quite sure where. It looks like it was coming onto the Wellington straight. That's a bit of an odd one. Unfortunately for him, that's kind of slowed down his charge. He's still in the points at the moment. It's quite interesting. Because of the way the race started, we have some very quick drivers indeed who are out of the points. So we could have an interesting battle to try and salvage a point. Rob Whitney, pardon me, bloody hell, Colin Knief setting a 202.4 there. He's found another 10th halfway into, or more than halfway into the race now. He is showing no signs of stopping at all. Rob Whitney I've just made the same mistake that I made about 10 seconds ago. Andrew Whitehead is who we're looking at the moment. He has been running very nice indeed. He was in the pits for a very long time. Oh, commentator's case there. He is off the track. Andrew Whitehead is now doing some gymkhana, and he was running nicely. Was getting close to the points again after a lengthy pit stop, but unfortunately for him, that charge is over. Now less than half a second separating Alex and Matt Daly. Once again, these two very good racing drivers indeed. They've respected each other very well indeed, but Alex Smith has had an immense exit onto the Wellington straight there, and he's gained quite substantially. It won't be quite enough for a move unless he's particularly brave, and he's very brave under braking there. Oh, that wasn't going to work, was it, Lewis? That was he's lucky no one was hurt in that one, I think.
Maybe getting a bit impatient behind. He's got to try and keep his head, keep his patience going. You know, still got 9.5 minutes to go in this race, and it would be an awful shame for him to throw it away by sending a nose somewhere where you're going to just never be able to make the pass.
As we watch someone try and make the pass, Anthony Gray on Guy Swarbrick. He nearly had an incident very similar to George Brook Battersby earlier on in the race as they head towards the end of the hangar straight there. A very nice move from Anthony Gray, very clean. Very well done. They're pretty much going to be side by side though, heading towards Vale actually, unless no, that was just a bit of perspective, being a bit weird there. But yeah, some very, very good driving on display here from Matt and Alex. It's one thing to lap quickly; it's another thing to race with another driver for the entirety of a race, really. So very good demonstration of ability here. Meanwhile, out in front, Colin Knief is getting ready to start another lap. He's now about 16 seconds ahead of Matt Daly, setting a 202.39. There is Colin Knief, so the fuel loads are getting lighter and the tyres aren't showing any signs of stopping, at least the way it looks to us. I'll have to check on the team chat in between this race and the reverse grid to see what the driver's feedback is on the tyres, because Colin doesn't look like he's struggling at all.
No, he seems to have really got those hard tyres to switch on, but putting in some absolutely flying laps.
Oh dear, what a shame. I've missed a big error from Matt Daly. Fortunately, he's conceded second position there with, I'm not sure if there was contact involved in that one. Maybe you'll be able to have a look at the timing screen, possibly? Big ask, I know.
I didn't see any contact. It might well have been just a...
Because it should,
broke.
It should give you, just for a bit of insight for the viewers, it should give Lewis a kind of a notification when an accident happens. I think that might have been what happened there, actually, because Alex has conceded the position back to Matt there. Yeah, bit of an odd one. Apologies for missing that one, folks, but it has now pushed, as you were mentioning before, it has now pushed Will Inglis to within 3 seconds of those two, filling up the bottom spots of the podium with 7 minutes to go, and Will Inglis has been running very nicely. He's got the hard tyres left, so he could be on for a good battle for the podium in just a moment. You see, they're now within hunting distance, I think.
Be very interesting to see how this race shapes up towards the end. We could see a three-way battle for that second and third position. It could be a very interesting way to finish things off, and a very expensive mistake from those two drivers running up in second and third.
Yes, indeed. Someone having an off there. It looks to be Anthony Gray. He's going to... Oh, that's an interesting line from Alex there. Not sure if that will get picked up by the stewards. I think it might do. It was very off the track, I think. It doesn't look like he's carrying that much pace now, all of a sudden. I'm not sure if he's picked up a little bit of damage maybe from that incident earlier on. But it just looks... Something about the car. It doesn't look very energetic almost heading into the corners. It could be lag. It could be Assetto being Assetto as ever. It looks like Anthony Gray was doing a bit more rallycross to test out the suspension on his Tartus FA01. Now about 1.5 seconds separating Alex Smith and Will Inglis. You see that gap has really shrunk over this lap. Maybe we are now starting to see the difference between the medium and the hard tyres as we head to the final stages of this race now.
Yeah, Will Inglis definitely closing in there now as they come into Village. He's really closing in. I think he's closed at kind of a good half a second a lap. Now within a second, kind of teetering on the edge, although it looks as though he's had a bit of poor exit.
Yes, I didn't quite catch the exit, but it looked a little bit messy. But yeah, this is going to be interesting now as the gap has extended just a little bit. And speaking of gaps, the one between Guy Swarbrick and Andrew Whitehead is closing quite substantially as Guy Swarbrick picks quite a defensive line there. You see Andrew Whitehead almost look like he's getting frustrated, and they're going to have to fight through Mags and Beckett. Guy Swarbrick does concede the position now, and there's a huge amount of snap oversteer for Andrew Whitehead there. I'm not sure if that was tyre related or if it was something to do with the setup, but whatever. His car has not been looking particularly drivable, it must be said. It's looked like quite a fussy car to drive. And yeah, huge moment for Andrew Whitehead heading through Maggers and Beckett. So very lucky to keep it out of a wall. He will be able to carry on for this race, but it looks like his challenge for points is over, unfortunately.
A hard tyre, so the likelihood of it being a kind of tyre degradation is minimal. Maybe it was just trying to carry a bit too much speed to put the pressure on Guy Swarbrick. Unfortunately, it's put him far down. He was lucky to have enough of a gap behind him, where his 12th place is not at risk. But yeah, certainly a battle for points is over.
Definitely, and we see this gap now between Alex Smith and Will Inglis just extending out ever so slightly now. So Will Inglis will be wanting to lean on that extra tyre life that he has. Although I say he has extra tyre life, one of the joys of an open setup championship is that he could be running a radically different setup that has pretty much used about the same amount of tyre life as what Alex Smith might be running. We see Alex Smith is trying to push towards Matt Daly again.
Yeah, it's very interesting, as you say, about the setups. Obviously, it takes a little while for these drivers to find their ideal setup, and you might find that your setup might be quicker over one lap, but might struggle. You might not see as much average pace. We're coming down now about 3.5 minutes to go in this race. Will Inglis be able to close up? Will he be able to use those hard tyres? Will Alex see any degradation in the last 2 minutes? And will Matt Daly be able to keep him behind? Obviously, the moves are starting to come now. Going to start to come now as the clock winds down. You could see a bit of a desperation overtake. Hopefully, they manage to keep it clean and keep each other's bodywork on. It would be nice to see a bit of a battle there.
Yes, and I think we're definitely getting one now. As Alex Smith is now kind of looking fairly comfortable within that 1 second delta. No DRS in these cars, unfortunately for him. But we see now he's once again getting quite close to the gearbox of Matt Daly. Apart from that one mistake earlier, these two have put on a very impressive performance indeed. As Will Harper is currently, his push through the rest of the field hasn't gone quite his way, unfortunately, having that second incident earlier on. But he should still be fairly happy taking away a couple of points from this weekend, given the mistakes that he's had. So he's done a good job to keep the pace up despite those errors.
He's closing in on John Baker in P7, so could he be able to close that gap with in the last 2 minutes? It's going to look very interesting. I think he's lapping a good second or two faster. We could see a very interesting end to that race.
Indeed, he'll be hoping that that overtake attempt doesn't go the way that it went last time for him. As we see, Alex Smith is now trying to use as much of Matt Daly's slipstream as he can in that final push to take second position. Looks like Alex Smith has a very stable car indeed. Alex Smith has quite recently actually changed setup on his car. He's gone radically different to what he was using before, I believe. My notes may be wrong on that one, but we've seen, in fact, it looks like Adam Baker's had to pit for some reason. That is usually either... Well, no, he is actually coming into the pit box. I was going to say that's either a penalty or he's forgotten to fuel the car properly, or there's something terminal with the car. Fortunately for him, that has probably conceded. It might have taken him out the points. Will Harper will be quite happy with that. That has now given him 7th position, and he can sit fairly comfortably there.
Yeah, it saves Will Harper the job of trying to get past him. I think, by the look of it, John Baker's still in 8th position as he comes out of the pits now, rejoining the track. It could be that, as you say, there was a fuel, or potentially I think he was running the the medium tyres, so potentially he saw a lot of degradation and thought it's actually better to risk it for a last dash pit stop and put a set of softs on for the last laps, than see potentially a puncture or a big oversteer moment and run out of space. As I believe the battle between Matt Daly and Alex Smith is coming towards its conclusion, as we've got a couple of coming onto the final lap imminently.
Yes, we'll rejoin the action with Colin Kniff. I say the action, he's had a nice Sunday drive, really. this race. He'll have to work a bit harder as a result of it through the reverse grid race. But Colin Kniff is showing, he's showing kind of his mettle, really. He's showing that this championship is the one for him. He's had now pretty much 2 dominant weekends in a row, really. Obviously, we do have the reverse grid race coming up in just a moment, as Rob Whitney looks like he's had... it's not Rob Whitney, it's Andrew Whitehead once again, unfortunately having another off. What a shame for Andrew Whitehead. This hasn't gone the way that he would have wanted at all. There's only half a second, less than half a second now, separating Alex Smith and Matt Daly as they head onto the Wellington Straight. Looks like Alex Smith has got quite a decent exit that time. Will it be enough, though? Maybe he's carrying a bit more aero than Matt Daly, because I've seen Matt Daly's car actually looking quite squirrely. It's not looked like it's been an easy beast to tame. So maybe he's running less aero, and that is allowing him to kind of walk it on the straight pretty much.
Absolutely, it could be that, as you said, the setup differences making all the difference here as the two of them run down towards Copse, I believe. This final lap, will we see a move potentially into Vale?
We're going to see a move attempted around Copse. Alex Smith really pushing the definition of track limit there, thinking about a move. Unfortunately, that's cost him a couple of tenths. As he kicks up a little bit of dirt heading through Maggott and Beckett now. Yeah, fortunately for him, that move didn't go quite the way they wanted. It could have gone much worse. I've seen Alex Smith take that line a couple of times now. It's an interesting one. Not entirely sure if it's within the limits of the track there. It doesn't seem to have gained too much time, actually, in fairness.
The old IndyCar line around the Circuit of the Americas. I think many people have seen that video of the interesting definition of track limits at that circuit.
Yes, I look at these 1.4 multi-air powered F4 chassis, and I think IndyCar. As we see, it looks like Alex Smith has unfortunately just got a little bit squirrely on exit there, and that has pushed him a few tenths further behind once again. Rob Whitney trying to close in on Paul Millman. Paul Millman's actually had a cracking race. This is a really good turn of pace for Paul. I've seen quite a decent upturn in the start of this season compared to last, so well done for him for making some really good progress, and he will be enjoying some very nice points as a result of that. Colin Kniff then, he's been unshined for the entire... Oh dear, what's happened there? Alex Smith has had an off, unfortunately. I'm not sure if that was collision with lapped traffic there, but whatever caused it, that has put Will Inglis now in 3rd position on the track. Oh dear, what a shame for Alex Smith. We saw Austria, we saw him having a very good race and losing it on the last lap, and it looks like we're going to have a repeat of that here in Silverstone. What a shame for Alex Smith there.
Yeah, it's been such a good race. It's such a shame to see, unfortunately, that just losing it a bit there. He's done so well to stick with Matt Daly for the whole race and been, mostly very clean. But Will Inglis has done well to just sort of sit there and be there or thereabouts and able to capitalise on an error like that.
Yes, indeed. As Colin Kniff heads down the hangar straight now, Rob Whitney is looking to make a move on Paul Millman, with less than 3 tenths separating them now. That gap's just extended just a tiny bit as they head through the corners, but he'll be putting an immense amount of pressure on Paul Millman on the last lap of the race as they head through Copse. Pardon me, not through Copse. They're about to come onto Copse. My mistake there, as Colin Kniff heads down towards Vale now. He heads through Vale and comes onto the final corner. And he weaves in celebration as he crosses the line in 1st place. Oh, no, he doesn't. Oh, dear. This is the final lap.
Premature there.
Actually, no, I've made this mistake before. This timing system does this. This is the final lap. Colin Kniff has taken the win there, as Rob Whitney has unfortunately made an error behind Paul Millman, promoting Will Harper into 6th position. Congrats to Colin Knief on the victory there. Very well deserved indeed. Matt Daly then will be coming home, taking second position. Challenged the entire race, but unfortunately for Alex Smith, that challenge came to an end right towards the end of the race. Alex Smith taking home 4th position as a result of that. Will Harper, less than a second separating him and 5th position. This race not gone entirely the way that he would have wanted, but he's still taking home some nice points regardless. As we see Colin Knief parking up, revelling in the glory of a very good victory indeed. As we see, the battles are still going on with this fairly large grid. We have it Barry Clayton and Adam Baker fighting for 8th position very aggressively indeed as they head down the Wellington Straight. And it looks like Adam Baker has the advantage under braking there. Very nicely done indeed. Battling carries on till the very end in this series here. Rob Whitney is currently showing as 10th position, actually, although the point, it may not be worth going off the positions anymore as a few drivers have left the session. But yeah, the battling carrying on right until the bitter end there between these two. Very good racing indeed. Well, that was an action-packed start to the race weekend. I'm looking forward to the reverse grid. What do you make of that race, Lewis? I thought it was very interesting indeed. We've seen some very good action between...
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely right. It was good to see Colin Knief doing really, really well there to stay out, build that gap early on, and maintain it on those hard tyres, doing some incredibly consistent lap times. I think the battle between Alex and Matt was incredible to watch. Unfortunately, didn't quite have the conclusion we were hoping for. And Will Inglis to just stay, as I said, just to stay there or thereabouts, and just wait for an error to come, and then as soon as it does, he's there to snap up and capitalise. A shame about the early contact for a few of the drivers who unfortunately had to make a bit of a comeback, although they could see a better opportunity in the reverse grid race to make some real points there where they start higher up.
Indeed, yeah, I think Will Inglis is a highlight to me. It's really demonstrated he's got excellent racecraft and he's capitalised on a lot of people's mistakes there. So we've come to the end of race 1. We'll be joining you in just a moment for the action that is the reverse grid race. See you then. and welcome back to the action here at Silverstone. We've got just under 30 seconds to go until lights out. We're here for the reverse grid portion of the weekend. This second out of two races here at the British circuit. We have Alan Matthews in first position, Andrew Whitehead in second, so he should be very well set up indeed for this race. We have me in third apparently at the moment, but no, that'll be Anthony Gray in third as we get ready for the gantry to be lit. It's 6 red lights on the gantry, and we are away. Alan Matthews getting quite a good launch there, actually, but as did Anthony Gray and Andrew Whitehead once again, as we saw in race 1, getting a fairly decent launch as well. It will be Alan Matthews out in front for the moment as we join the back of the grid to see this quite... Oh dear, the mid-pack is very, very busy indeed. This surely isn't going to end well. Alex Smith trying to dive under braking there. Looks like Anthony Gray has had an off, unfortunately, as we head through the loop. Alex Smith has found himself in third position for the moment then, so he's had a very good start to this reverse grid race. Will Harper very closely behind him indeed in fourth position. Colin Knief has unfortunately been able to make his way up the grid for the moment. He's still in 10th. Meanwhile, Matt Daly's had a very good start as well in fifth position. Will Harper has promoted himself into third under braking there, and it looks like Matt Daly is going to be battling Alex Smith, much like we had in race 1. Someone going quite wide there. It looks to be Guy Swarbrick, and it will still be, though, Alan Matthews out in front for the moment as we head down towards Copse.
It's a bit of an interesting start there, going into Village in the loop for the first time, 3 or 4 wide.
Yeah, we kind of had like 2 groups of 4 wide, basically. As Alan Matthews, unfortunately, massive error through Copse. Oh dear, is that full chart that was? That's going to relegate him fairly down the grid, I imagine, because it stayed relatively close. That is now Andrew Whitehead out in first, and he'll be hoping that he doesn't make any early errors like he did in race 1, as he has to defend the lead from Will Harper and Matt Daly, 2 very quick drivers indeed. A little bit of a gap between them and Alex Smith. I say a little bit of a gap, it's still not much, it's still less than a second. Alex Smith has found a lot of time towards Matt Daly there, pardon me. Yeah, I made a bit of an error reading out the deltas there as we head towards, oh dear, a little bit of contact between the 2 there. Matt Daly getting his elbows out, about half a second separating Andrew Whitehead and Will Harper, and it looks like Will Harper was thinking about a move under braking there, but that didn't quite work for him, unfortunately. Colin Knief has had a very good end to the lap, though, and has found himself in 6th position. Meanwhile, his title rival... Oh dear, there's contact between Will Inglis and Alex Smith. Luckily, they're able to keep it pointing in the correct direction, but that's cost them some very valuable time indeed. Seen that kind of second or 2 of error there has pushed them down the grid quite a far distance.
I think Colin Knief's been quite happy with that. Now up in 5th position, obviously looking to... adds to his 1 win already this weekend, or this race weekend. Matt Daly looking quite good in 3rd. Let's see if he can keep the pace that he showed in the first race, and see if he can potentially keep Colin Knief behind him for any period of time.
Yes, it should be interesting to see these 2 now. They are very, very similar in terms of pace. Very good drivers indeed, and they've now got to... They've got to choose whether or not they battle it. Oh dear, there's been an error for Matt Daly. I can't quite see, unfortunately. The camera's not updating. Who is it? We need to know, in the wise words of David Croft. Unfortunately for him, though, it looks like it's been a big accident heading through Brooklands for Matt Daly, and he's now in 12th position. Oh, what a shame.
Is it? Yeah, very early on in the race, and so he's got an opportunity to potentially try and fight back. But it's not going to... doesn't put him in particularly good stead. Colin Knief once again capitalises on the mistakes around him.
Yeah, finds himself on the podium now. Yeah, we've seen Colin Knief's pace. He will soon be on the gearbox of Will Harper. These 2 really need to pick whether or not they're going to battle or not. If they help each other out, they can try and keep that gap between them and Colin fairly wide, as we see Will Harper under braking, making the move on Andrew Whitehead to take first position for the moment. I'm sure Andrew Whitehead's going to try and steal that back, though, Alex Smith sitting relatively comfortably in 4th, with Will Inglis in 5th, so they're not doing too bad given the incident that they had earlier in the lap. Guy Swarbrick's had a very nice start to the race indeed. He's under pressure from Rob Whitney, who is also under pressure from Paul Millman, who is pretty much also under pressure from George Brooke Battersby, who is pretty much under pressure from Adam Baker. There's a very, very decent battle for the mid-pack at the moment. Colin Keneath setting the fastest lap of the race at 2:29.
For the lead that seems to be forming at the moment is going to be putting a smile on Colin Keneath's face, as he will probably look to sit back and hope and watch the carnage in front of him. Hopefully they manage to keep it fairly clean, as well as it looks as though this race has started in a similar vein to the last race, with a lot of close action on track. Let's see if they can keep it going.
See about a 10th separating Colin Keneath and Andrew Wyatt. They're going to be side by side heading through Luffield, and it looks like he's got the move done on the inside there. Very nice textbook move from Colin Keneath there, and now he fancies a chance with Will Harper heading down towards Copse. Then there's 2 10s separating them, and Colin Keneath will be enjoying the slipstream. We know for certain that Colin Keneath's running a very low downforce setup, so that'll be helping him nicely at this point in time. Colin Keneath's actually doing all this with front wing damage that he picked up on lap 1, so we're seeing some very impressive driving on display here. As we see George Brooke Battersby, and speaking of impressive driving, has through Copse got the move done on Rob Whitney to take 7th position. And he now will be trying to push towards Guy Strawbrick, who has done very well indeed to keep it in 6th position for the moment. As we see a big error for Will Harper, unfortunately, that steals the lead from him. What a shame. Yeah, as you mentioned, Lewis, it's been very similar to race 1 in terms of structure. We've seen Will Harper making a early race error that takes him out of the lead, and Colin Keneath is now defending Andrew Whitehead, defending against Andrew Whitehead as they head into Vale. Pretty much side by side, Colin Keneath has the inside line and will be able to box him off as they head onto the start-finish straight now. Will Harper really not doing very well after that incident. Alex Smith finding himself down in 7th now, promoting Guy Swarbrick up to 4th.
What can Guy Swarbrick do after I'm sure a performance he won't be particularly happy about in the first race? He's up in a very competitive position. Will Inglis back on the podium positions, essentially looking to capitalise on the gap he's currently got. It looks as though he's almost in no man's land a bit, trying to chase after the leading pair. Andrew Whitehead stay with Colin Keneath, and can't he force any errors? It looks as though the damage may have impacted Colin's overall pace. It seems it potentially could be that will come into play later in the race. Yes,
last lap for Colin Keneath for 2:05 actually, so yeah, he's in defending against Andrew Whitehead, and possibly with that damage as well. He could be suffering. He is running quite a low downforce setup on the front, so hopefully for him it shouldn't affect him too badly, but we don't know what it's going to do to things like the tyres, as we see Rob Whitney and Andrew Whitehead coming together, unfortunately, I believe, or it looks like Andrew Whitehead might have spun out, and we have a disconnection for Andrew Whitehead there, unfortunately, so that now pushes up George Brooke Battersby into 3rd position. Will Inglis, much as he did in race 1, capitalising on other people's errors, and he is going to bring home some decent points if he keeps it clean now, as we have just under 20 minutes of this race remaining.
Will Inglis has had a bit of a saviour in the last 2 races. He's done very well to just keep his nose clean, as we said. You can make up positions without having to do anything, as long as you keep the car pointing in the right direction. I think that's probably lit up Guy Swarbrick as well, as he looks to capitalise on the potential now for a podium position. George Brooke Battersby is going to be under a lot of pressure. For the next 16 minutes, hopefully, we could see a very interesting race for that last podium position and some very handy championship points.
Yes, and don't count out Matt Daly, who is just behind. After his error, he has pushed his way through the field nicely. Colin Keneath setting a 2:02.8, the fastest lap of the race so far. Oh dear, there's an error for Guy Swarbrick, unfortunately. He's collected Alex Smith in the process. What a shame. I feel there's a little bit of commentator's curse there going on. We should just probably stop talking about people having a good race, because it seems to go wrong. Unfortunately for Guy, he's now down in 8th position, and but Matt Daly will probably be fairly happy with that, because it has pushed Alex Smith off the gearbox. of Matt Daly. We saw Matt Daly's kind of challenge in race 1 pretty much be thwarted by having to defend against very quick Alex Smith. That pressure should have been alleviated ever so slightly now.
Absolutely, and by the looks of it, George Brooke Battersby on the medium tyres, closing quite quickly with Will Inglis, potentially closing at a second or so a lap. That could potentially mean he can fight Will. Will that mean that that second position that he's found himself in is under threat? As Colin Knief built a big gap out in front as he did in the first race, and it looks as though the battle for 8th position. There's 4 cars as they dive into Brooklands, within spitting distance of each other. That could be a very interesting battle. We could see potentially some errors or some tyre differences. It looks as though Rob Whitney on the medium tyres could see a performance change over the course of the race, and the hard runners behind him could again capitalise with, as we see the tyre deg potentially increasing over the course of the race.
Yes, indeed. This battle for the mid-pack going very well indeed. He joined Will Harper, actually, is going to join in on that action as well as he makes his way through the grid once again. He's on the hard tyres, so he can pretty much afford to just ever so slightly over 50 minutes of the race remaining. He can afford to pretty much push till the end now, and should claw some decent points for you. See Alan Matthews just out in front of him there, clipping a little bit of the grass. Paul Millman running nicely once again. He's made up 8 positions so far as Colin Knief sets an absolute flyer there with this amount of fuel on board. Paul Millman made up 8 positions so far in this reverse grid race. He's doing a very nice job indeed. A little bit of oversteer through Vale there, so maybe the rear tyres, maybe he's pushing, and maybe the rear tyres are starting to scream just a little bit. But he can be fairly happy with his performance this weekend, I think, as Will Harper comes up to the P8 and P9, now heading through Vale himself. But yeah, Colin Knief, meanwhile, we'll just join him very quickly. It's just been a mirror image of race 1 for him, pretty much, with damage as well. A very impressive drive from him indeed, as Alan Matthews, carrying a lot of damage himself, takes 8th position away from Rob Whitney. But that battling has brought Will Harper right up into play indeed. He's pretty much side by side with Rob Whitney now as we head through the loop and onto the Wellington Straight. Will Harper opting to take a different line to Rob Whitney there. Rob Whitney staying much closer to the inside line. All the drivers kind of bunching up though, heading down the Wellington Straight to take advantage of the slipstream. But as you mentioned before, Lewis, George Brooke Battersby is finding a fair bit of time against Will Inglis and is now within a second of him as they head through Copse.
Yeah, it looks as though that medium tyre for George Brooke Battersby is doing some work for him. Obviously, we could see, as we've said many times before, we could see the tyre develop over the course of the race. Potentially, Will Inglis is looking to save a bit of his tyres, knowing that potentially futile.
Oh dear, sorry, yeah, Matt Daly having an off there, not too major, but he's lost a good few seconds there. He's now in 6th and will have Adam Baker for company. What a shame for Matt Daly this weekend, not panning out the way he would have wanted, but we'll rejoin that action with George and Will as they are side by side on the braking now.
Will he be able to have a look down into the last corners of the lap, or maybe potentially hold on into Village, going down into the next lap? Only a 10th or so between them. It's looking to be a very interesting battle. See how that progresses.
Yeah, we see Will Inglis using a little bit more of the track on exit. However, he didn't have a very good exit out of the final corner there, and George Brooke Battersby are going to be side by side as they head into turn 1 now. It looks like he's conceded just a little bit. Probably the sensible option if you want to keep the front wing attached. See him just cut back in ever so slightly there. Still only 2/10 separating these two, with just over 10 minutes of the race remaining. And they're going to head through the loop and onto the Wellington Straight now. Let's see who has the better exit, who has the advantage down the start, not the start, down the Wellington Straight.
Going to look to be big in the mirrors.
Oh, just see Alex Smith go into the distance there. You just see this hilarious car just in the background fly off as it looks like George Brooke Battersby had a dive. It didn't quite work, unfortunately. He was carrying too much speed heading into Brooklands and had to concede the position once again.
He's managed to avoid any significant time loss, staying very, very close behind Will Inglis. It could be a move into Copse, or again just hanging on and seeing as Will Inglis did so well in the first race, just waiting for the mistake to come, potentially trying to force the error as Will Inglis runs wide there.
Yeah, I think that error has potentially just shown itself for George Brook Battersby. I thought they were going to try side by side through Maggott and Beckett, so they thought better of it. And unfortunately, he's lost a little bit of time as a result of that. They're going to head through Chapel now and on to the Hanger Straight.
It's just about keeping yourself out of trouble. You've just got to keep yourself out of trouble for as long as possible. Look for those opportunities to capitalise, but when there's no, when there's no need to send it when you don't need to send it, it's better to stay behind for an extra lap and look to make a much easier pass.
Indeed, it looks like some of the damage that these drivers are carrying means they haven't been following that mantra, unfortunately. Nonetheless, there's been some really good racing action so far as Will Harper has overtaken Alan Matthew and is now on the gearbox of Adam Baker, and we've seen him make this move before. Under braking there, he takes 7th position. Very nice racecraft from Will Harper indeed. If he can keep it clean of any mistakes, he could be on for a battle with Matt Daly if he's not careful here. That'll be very nice to see for Will indeed, as there's still only about half a second separating George and Will. It's been an action-packed couple of races so far.
Be on the gearbox of Paul Millman in front, only about 7/10 of a second as they go into Village. Could this be a top position for 5th place, as Paul Millman's looking to keep as many of those places as possible after a very good start to the race, and Daly I think had a bit of an incident earlier on in the race, as it looks as though there's been some contact between Baker and Matthews, potentially just a little bit of rubbing his racing.
Quite possibly. Matt Daly under braking into Brooklands there, getting the move done on Paul Millman. Paul Millman was going to have to work hard to keep Matt Daly behind, and unfortunately that challenge came to an end very quickly. But we see Matt Daly on exit there getting a lot of oversteer. That car once again looking like it's not the easiest thing in the world to drive. He's going to keep Paul Millman behind for now, but he's very close indeed, and he's going to have to work quite hard to bring that car home. He's on the hard tyres as well, so I thought they'd have quite a lot of grip. We've seen him out of understeer. Matt Daly is carrying through cops there. It's just full lock, and the car was not wanting to respond. So yeah, it must be a very tricky car to drive indeed, that one.
Potentially running far less downforce than, it looks as though he's running far less downforce than maybe some of the other drivers. It's like the understeer on turning and a lot of snap oversteer mid-corner. It could be as though he's kind of capitalising on the straights but suffering on the corners.
Indeed, George Brook Battersby gets past Will Inglis heading through turn 15 there and into Vale. He will try and keep that, but he doesn't, unfortunately. Looks like he left the door open pretty much for Will Inglis, and Will Inglis will start this next lap in 2nd position once again. Very nice bit of battling between these two drivers. This could go on to the very end, as we see Adam Baker is trying to put pressure on Rob Whitney, running a little bit too wide there, unfortunately. But yeah, Matt Daly has now pretty much left Paul Millman and is pretty much running in his own bit of air now.
Close to the back of Alex Smith, and we can see the a race that unfortunately ended poorly in the first race. Could we see that battle come back and have a more satisfying conclusion as Will Inglis and George Brook Battersby stayed very, very close together?
Indeed.
Down towards Brooklands.
Yeah, George Brook Battersby trying to use as much of that slipstream as possible, looking like he's going to explore around the outside possibly, trying different lines each and every lap, seeing what works. That wasn't looking like it was going to work, unfortunately. A little bit too far back for his liking this time round. Rob Whitney is getting fairly close to the car of Alan Matthews. This battle for 8th position, it in one form or another has carried on pretty much throughout the entire race. So regardless of the pace on display, there's something for everyone here this weekend in Silverstone, as George Brook Battersby gets a much better exit, and they head through cops now. Will Inglis running a little bit wide there. He's lost a little bit of time, and they're going to head through Maggott and Beckett, and George Brook Battersby is going to be on the... I was about to say he's going to be on the gearbox of him pretty much, but it doesn't seem to be the case. I've seen that a couple of times. We saw George lose a little bit of time through Maggott and Beckett, so maybe it's a setup thing. Or maybe he's just not familiar with the corner. He is, of course. It's easy to forget with George. He is a rookie. And he's running very well indeed.
Absolutely, Maggott Beckett's a very, very famous complex of corners, and not easy to get right, especially in these aero cars where you're pretty much flat out all the way through. It's very difficult to be brave enough to keep going and to still keep between the white lines, especially when you're running behind someone. You're kind of focusing on a lot of things at once. Although he looks to have closed up that gap into the end of the lap, so lost a few tenths but made them back elsewhere, which is good for him, good for the battles.
Yes, looking like Will Inglis lost a little bit of time on the exit of turn 15 there, maybe carrying a bit too much speed and having to run wide. George Brook-Battersby is setting himself up very nice for some of these corners indeed. He has a little bit of an explore down the inside there. It wasn't going to work from that far back, unfortunately. As we head through the loop now and on to the Wellington Straight. And we will see him pretty much echoing every move that Will Inglis makes in order to take as much slipstream from him as possible. They'll be running through the gears now, up into 6th, quite possibly. Maybe not in these cars. Probably top out 5th, I was, as he looks around the outside. They're pretty much side by side.
Just looking to be big in the mirrors of Will Inglis.
Yes, he is. Yeah, it was so 50-50 whether or not he made the move or not then. It was very, very close action indeed, as Matt Daly has got past Alex Smith. I believe Alex Smith has made an error there because Matt Daly was a few seconds behind, or maybe we're just seeing a really good turn of pace from Matt Daly now.
Absolutely, he's pushing his way back up towards those podium positions. Can he close the 6-second gap with Brook-Battersby and Inglis fighting with about 4.5 minutes to go in the race?
Indeed, it looks like George is getting a little bit upset over the curbs there. See, Alex Smith actually had a lot of understeer through Cops. He is on the mediums, Matt Daly is on the hard, so maybe it was around this point where it started to question the tyres in the previous race. And unfortunately for Matt Daly, he's clattered a curb and there's a lot of oversteer and he spins out. I'm pretty sure he did that in race 1 as well, in the exact same position. What a shame for Matt Daly there. That gives Alex Smith 4th position once again, but he's really dropping down the grid quite far there. That promotes Will Harper into 6th, Paul Millman into 5th. What a shame for Matt Daly there. This hasn't gone the way he would have wanted this weekend.
Absolutely, that's the risk with clattering those curbs quite the way that he has. It's either going to pay off or it's going to spit you out, and it seems as though it's on the latter in this case. He's got a little bit too big on the curbs and lost the control of the car. So these cars are very low down, so it's very easy to make that sort of mistake.
Indeed, and this, in terms of bigger picture as well, Colin Knief, as we go on board with him, which we've barely done this entire race, 30 seconds between him and 2nd position now, has had a very strong start to the championship, pretty much dominating, in fact, no, he was dominating both rounds so far, while Matt Daly has been unable to score any meaningful points. This could have a huge effect on the championship later on as Barry Clayton gets past for that all-important point-scoring position. He gets past Adam Baker there, and George Brook-Battersby is still within that half-a-second gap on Will Inglis. He's carrying much more speed through Brooklands, though, and on exit, who is going to be better off? I think it's going to be Will Inglis. Maybe Will Inglis running a little bit less aero. He's able to box off George once again.
Yeah, it looks as though in the areas where Brook-Battersby will be looking to make those passes, Will Inglis has just got enough of a pace.
Oh dear, big spin for both drivers. It didn't look like that was contact, that just looked like it was synchronized, like it was some weird type of ballet almost. If they're not quick enough to rejoin, it'll be Alex Smith and Will Harper. Probably not Will Harper. Alex Smith is now in this battle for 3rd all of a sudden. In fact, he takes 3rd from George. Well, that's played into Alex Smith's hands, hasn't it?
Only 2 minutes left in this race. Alex Smith has been gifted a podium. Do him wonders in the championship.
It will. Don't count out George yet. Alex Smith is carrying a lot of damage. We'll see Colin Knief setting a 2:02 flat there. Now 45 seconds pretty much ahead of P2 after that incident there. That was an odd one, as we saw Will Harper and Paul Milne were actually battling very nicely through Brooklands, taking advantage of different lines and taking advantage of their strengths in different part of the track. But we see Alex Smith is actually closing up on Will Inglis ever so slightly. Imagine Will Inglis's and George's tyres will be very, very overcooked now as a result of that high-speed spin. And we can see Alex Smith on exit there, just able to find 10th as Steve Knight gets out of the way in a very nice manner there. Wow, yeah, Alex Smith really gaining down the straight now.
The outside, choosing to make that move towards the outside as it Maybe that gives him the inside line, but into the next corner, I don't think it does. No, he's seeming as though Will Inglis is keeping him behind him very well and able to put that spin behind him. The short-term memory of some of these racing drivers is very poor. They forget these spins and carry on with the race. It looks as though Brooke Battersby's been able to stick onto that back of that three-car train, so he could be putting Smith under pressure, potentially making him think twice about an overtaking move.
Yes, as we watch this train of cars there sticking in each other's slipstream, unfortunately we have had Matt Daly disconnect, so it's going to be pretty much a pointless round once again. He did pick up a couple in race 1, but he's going to have to work really hard now. We have plenty of rounds left of this season, but it is advantage Colin Knief for the moment. Then he could afford probably 2 or 3 crashes really, and still take a victory home. As we come to the bottom of the stopwatch now, come to the end of the stopwatch, it is Alex Smith who has got George Brooke Battersby for company heading into Maggott and Beckett's though. Colin Knief second at 201.8, wow! Very quick lap, but he's got damage, remember?
Yeah, maybe that damage has enabled him to get some more straight line speed or something. It could well be a bit of a blessing. But Brooke Battersby looking as though he's managed to keep some life in those medium tyres, and potentially Alex Smith has managed to. He's also running the mediums, but potentially he's overcooked them slightly, and in his race he might have lost a bit of life in those tyres, because it looks as though Brooke Battersby's sticking to him with relative ease and looking to be absolutely all over.
He's going to try it. Yeah, try it into Vale. Oh, it was very brave under braking, and he could have made it work, but that was a very close one indeed. Well done to Alex for keeping the position there. Carrying damage himself, Alex is. He's made up 4 positions in this race so far. They are side by side. We are now at the end of the timer. We see Colin Knief is soon to be starting the final lap of the race, but we are going to stick with the battle for 3rd position. It has been a very good battle for the podium in both races, and that has it's going to carry on to the very end of the final race of the weekend. We see George carrying quite a bit of understeer, it looks to be there. I can't look too keen to turn in by now. However, on exit, he is right on the behind of Alex, and if he's brave enough, he's going to try it, heading towards Brooklands.
It's as though Alex is squeezing him slightly on the way in there, maybe. See how they come out. He's got a nose in front. Can he keep it there? Can he run it all the way around?
If he's cheeky, he'll try and squeeze him.
And he's done it by the looks of it. Yeah, very well done there. Very well held on around the outside of Luffield. A very long right-hander. You've got to be very, very brave to keep it hanging around the outside there. Although it looks as though Smith's making a counter move into Cops.
Yes, he's carrying a serious amount of understeer though, and that has allowed George to just kind of sweep up the outside and take the position back. We've seen that Maggott and Beckers doesn't seem to be George's strength. How is it going to go for these two as they look to go side by side? Alex sees how wrong that is going to go and dives onto the brakes. Will obviously in shot there, now running in 5th very nicely indeed. So once again, he's going to pick up some good points. George though is looks to be advantage George for the moment. It's about half a second separating them, as Colin Knief has started the final lap of the race, heading down the Wellington Straight now. It is George, Alex and Will on the Hanger Straight. Oh, I've barely got a moment to breathe in this race. It's been action-packed.
Will looks as though Will Inglis in 2nd place has looked as though he's been able to capitalise on the battle between Brooke Battersby and Smith to just make sure that P2 is a bit safer. Hopefully he doesn't have any. Hopefully I haven't jinxed him and he doesn't have any incidents on the last lap. Because if he doesn't, that's a very good showing this weekend for him.
Yes, indeed, that'll help him out immensely at this early stage in the championship. It looks to be Alex Smith could be taking home 2 4th positions from this weekend, which I'm sure he's happy with, but it's not quite the podium sitting pace that we know that he has. However, he is really trying to challenge George Brooke Battersby. I'm conscious that Colin Knief is heading through Maggott Beckett at the moment all by himself. Very, very dominant weekend. Unfortunately for George, Alex has been able to squeeze past.
Move back though. We've seen how good he was around the outside at Luffield. Is he able to keep close enough to Smith there to just try and push him out towards the last stages of this race? But
we will be sticking with Colin as he heads down towards Vale now. with a nice 53-second gap between him and the car in second. I'm sure the victory donuts are going to be mighty impressive for Colin as he comes onto the start-finish straight.
I believe Smith's had an incident. Smith's fallen off.
Oh dear, we'll join that action very quickly. Colin Knief, yeah, he has. He is dropped down to 5th. That promotes George into 3rd. What a shame for Alex there. Colin Knief actually on his last lap set a 2:01.6. Very, very impressive pace displayed by Colin there. But yeah, what happened to Alex? There, he looks to be fairly comfortable in 5th now, but that's promoted Will into 4th. So we'll be fairly happy with that.
Yeah, great race from Will there. Just keeping clean and making up a couple of places. Paul Millman in 7th, making up 7 places by the looks of it over the course of the race.
Yes, he's had another really good race, and it looks to be, though, the battling with Paul will go on as it did in race 1 to the very, very bitter end. So yeah, very, very well-deserved victory to Colin yet again. He's just shown nothing but impressive pace the entire weekend. Took pole, took race 1 victory, and took race 2 victory by nearly a minute. This is him showing his force as we head into this championship now. Very, very good weekend from Colin indeed.
Really close racing all the way down the field there. It's great to see these guys really kind of having nice battles. Seems as though everyone seems to have someone else on their pace that they can try and battle, and it makes for some very, very tense moments for us. Very interesting racing to watch.
Indeed, as we see Alex Smith just crossing the line just a moment ago there, taking home 5th position. Still a decent amount of points, but not the race weekend that he would have wanted, nor would it have been the race that Matt Daly would have wanted, nor would it have been the race probably that a few other drivers wanted. Such is racing, but there can be a few drivers on the grid here who can be very happy with their performance indeed. So it is Colin Knief, Will Inglis, and George... was it George Brook? I'm not sure. Yeah, George Brook practically filling out the podium there, so they can be. They will, I'm sure, will enjoy the champagne or the virtual champagne. We don't, unfortunately, have any on offer at this point in the championship. Maybe if they win the championship at the end, we can get them a little present. But it's still early days. Too early to be thinking about that. Very well deserved win for Colin here at Silverstone. Then he dominated the weekend. So that brings the racing to Silverstone to a close. Then. I'd like to thank you all for watching. I'd like to thank Lewis for joining us here. I hope you enjoyed commentating with us.
Yeah, it's been one hell of a race. I look forward to potentially seeing you guys, or seeing this racing again and seeing this continue into the championship. It'll be really good to see.
Yes, indeed. Some really good racing, and we will be joining you in a fortnight's time for some more racing here in these Formula Alpha cars. Of course, join us next week for the second attempt at the start of the TCR, the Touring Car Championship in the Alpha 75 cars here at Silverstone. So there's plenty of racing action here at the AROC Racing Leagues for you to enjoy. We will catch you